Well, first off, I want to thank all the members of the media for coming out today. It's really unbelievable, you know, my 23, 24 years coaching, what this day has come to mean in college football. And it's a very exciting day. This is kind of like Christmas for football coaches. That it's the culmination of a lot of hard work over really the past 18 months to 2 years by a lot of people who care about Bowling Green State University and our football program. Like with a lot of things in football, as the head coach, I get up here and get to introduce it, when the truth of it is that our assistant coaches do most of the work. They do all the legwork, they do all the grinding and the time on the road and the evaluation, and then I get to come up here and introduce the class. And it's really, the quality of this class is certainly more a credit to them and the hard work they put in. You know, just talking about this year's class, I think as in past years, our approach was similar in terms of what we look for, but it was very different in a lot of respects, and I'll kind of explain that as we go. I think it was very similar in that from the day we got here, we have always valued leadership. If you look at the 20 players who today signed and made a commitment to attend Bowling Green State University, 17 of the 20 players are captains. Okay, this is not an accident. That in our evaluation process, we want leaders, we want guys that are good students, and we want guys that have been recognized as leaders by their high school coaches and by their high school teammates, because we always talk about creating a culture of leadership in our program, and that's a lot easier to develop when you're recruiting guys who have had that role as a captain. We wanted to recruit the state of Bowling Green. From day one, we talked about the state of Bowling Green being a 4-hour radius from our campus. If you look at our list, 14 of the 20 players are within a 4-hour radius. We continue to do a great job in our backyard. We want to recruit the state of Ohio, the states of Michigan, Indiana, Chicago, Pittsburgh, those areas, and again, the bulk of this class is within those 4 hours. We will leave the area to recruit specific positional needs. So we'll go as far as Hawaii. Unfortunately, I didn't get to make a home visit on that one. We're trying to get a little relief from a dead period that we couldn't get because we have such an excellent Director of Compliance in Mark Shuck. I even asked Mark if he'd want to come with me, and we keep it between the lines here. But so even whether it's a center from Hawaii, whether it's a receiver from California, a defensive tackle from Florida, that to recruit a need that will go anywhere. And then finally, our philosophy has always been that we want to sign players who qualify. Everybody that we sign has either qualified or is projected to qualify. So a lot of times in this day and age, you know, people will give you their list on February 1st, and that isn't necessarily the list of guys that shows up in August. So we don't sign guys that we know or think won't make it just to boost our recruiting rankings. We want our February list to be our August list and our September list. And so far in the 4 classes that we have signed, that has been the case. Okay, I think this year our approach was different. You know, it's been well documented that we were coming off some APR issues. We were very low in scholarship numbers. In the last 3 years, we were able to sign the maximum amount of scholarships, 25. And even in doing that, we were never quite getting to 85. And for the first time since we've been here as a staff, we didn't have 25 to sign. So when you have a full class to sign, I think you're very concerned with filling the class and making sure you get enough players in the program just so you have guys that can line up. This year our goal number was right around 20. Fortunately, we hit that number exactly where we wanted it. And but I think this year we're a lot more selective. We didn't have to sign the maximum numbers. We were more selective. We were more patient. Because of that, we probably had to fight a lot more recruiting battles. You know, some we won, some we lost. But we ended up, you know, getting the class that we wanted at the positions that we felt we needed. And this class was to address current needs in the program for 2012 and also to address projected needs as we look at the players in our program who are becoming seniors and juniors and make sure not only these are guys that can help us win in 2012, but are the next future Falcons that when our seniors and our juniors graduate, that it's not an empty cupboard. As we started the season, and started recruiting on offense. The goals that we really felt we needed to solidify the offensive line, not just this year or the future. The past 2 years, we've really been playing with a shorthand on the offensive line in terms of numbers. So it's not an accident that we signed 6 offensive linemen. This now gives us 15, 16, 17 scholarship offensive linemen in our program. So we've got good numbers, we'll have good competition, we have a good distribution between the classes, and because of that, hopefully we'll never be in the position we've been in the past 2 years in terms of how thin and our lack of depth on the offensive line. At wide receiver, we graduated 6 seniors this year, so that was a position of great need. On the list, it'll say we signed 2 with Michael Allen and James White, but we really signed 4. Jamal Hosley started school, and then Jerron Stokes, who transferred from Michigan, is really part of this year's class as well. And then from a quarterback, tailback, receiver, our tight end standpoint, we like to sign 1 a year at that position. So you see James Kanakbe as the quarterback, Scott Davis as the tight end, and really a signee last year who we didn't announce, who is on campus now, Andre Givens, is really the tailback of the class. Defensively, we're very excited that we have 10 starters back from last year's defense. We have a lot of young players that played a lot of football for us. So on defense, we could really be selective. The standard was going to be high. We wanted to recruit guys that we thought would have a chance to play early and a chance to compete early. And so we were very selective there. At defensive tackle, we got 2 real good ones, guys that I think can help early, but also with the knowledge that Chris Jones is about to be a senior. Ted Allett and Jarris Campbell are going into their junior years, and these guys can play early and make the future very bright there. At linebacker, we really wanted to sign 1 at each position, a Sam, a Mike, a Will. We did that. At safety, we have a lot of good young players in the program, and that was a position that the standard was high, and I think we've got 2 great ones coming here. We're very excited about the safeties we've signed, and Josh Pettis and James Sanford. And corner, it was the same high standard. We have a young secondary, but we wanted to bring someone in here with the confidence and the skills and the athletic ability that could help us early, and certainly we feel Will Watson fits the bill there. We continue to emphasize special teams here. We wanted to get a long snapper. Corey Johnson will be a senior next year. He did a great job for us, but we wanted to make sure the next guy was on campus to challenge for that job, and that we had the next guy next spring, and we filled that need, along with a kicker, that as Jerry Phillips graduates, that we have competition at that position. So again, we're thrilled with the class. We think it is a very strong group, but the thing I'd like to add is that we withheld scholarships from this class to give to Andre Givens, Jerron Stokes, and Brian Schmeidebush. Brian Schmeidebush was a walk-on that earned a scholarship. He was an all-MAC punter. Andre Givens was one of the top running backs in the state of Ohio 2 years ago. And certainly Jerron Stokes from Michigan, who I recruited at the University of Tennessee, was one of the top 15 wide receivers in the country 3 years ago, a 4-star recruit. And so when I think you add those 3 players into the class, a strong class gets even stronger. There's so many people to thank in this process. The one thing we really sell at Bowling Green is family, the sense of community that exists here. And obviously I want to thank our assistant coaches for all their days on the road and their hard work, but also want to thank people in our administrators, in our administration that took time out of their schedules during the week, on the weekends, to help us. Certainly Greg Christopher, our athletic director. Greg takes the time with any recruit that we ever need to spend time with them, whether it's in the summer, on unofficial visits, before games. Greg is always there to help us. Mark Shook, our associate athletic director. Mark gives up every weekend to come meet with our recruits, to display the commitment that we make to our student athletes, not just athletically, but academically, in the support that he gives our student athletes. One thing that we brag about is in the 75 players that we've signed the previous 3 years, we have not lost one of them for academic reasons. And hopefully I'll get up here next year and say it's 4 years in a row. But that doesn't happen by accident, and that's certainly a credit to Mark and his staff and the work that they do. Jermaine Truex, our Director of Compliance. The nature of recruiting is rules interpretations always come up. Between him and Mark, I don't think we ever have to wait more than an hour to make sure that we're doing things the right way. and always following NCAA rules. And again, when issues come up, we reach out to Mark and Jermaine, and they get back to us, you know, almost without fail within an hour or two, which is very helpful. Amy Lanning, the administrative secretary to the athletic director, she's the one that types up all the letter of intents. And the days before the signing date, that can be crazy. Justin Zen's in the ticket office with all the unofficial visits we have, official visits. That usually goes flawless for us. Elizabeth Lemasters in financial aid has been a great asset to us. Nancy Eiler in housing. We've got 2 brand new, beautiful dorms here, and she does a great job of making sure that we're able to show those and, again, go through the housing office with that. We have a number of professors and academic people that give up weekends to help us. They come in Saturday mornings. They don't get paid overtime for it. They care about our program. They care about our players academically. Certainly Dr. Susan Kozakowski from our business program, Dr. Steve Langendorfer from exercise science and kinesiology, Rodney Rogers, our provost, is a tremendous supporter. And I think a lot of times people think the relationship between academics and athletics is adversarial. At Bowling Green, we're working hand in hand. We want the same thing for our student athletes, success on the field, success in the classroom. Mike Zicker from psychology, Jim Faust from broadcasting, Matt Webb from the School of Human Movement, Sports Leisure, Dr. Tim Chambers from the Business School, Phil Stinson from Criminal Justice, and Robert Klein from the Communications Department all gave up weekends to spend with our student athletes. A very special thanks to Van Wright. Bowling Green does not have a better advocate than Van Wright. He's a tremendous fan. He is as loyal BG as it gets. He bleeds orange. And the amount of time that he spends with our recruits on visits, and that relationship continues once they get on field. I think a lot of places will parade out somebody like Van and recruiting, and yet the players never ever see that person again in their 4 years. And we appreciate not only the effort Van gives us to recruit these players, but the follow-through and the support he gives them once they get here. On our official visit weekends, Amar from Clawson and his staff do a tremendous job of hosting us. Magni, who manages the Oaks, which is a brand new, beautiful dining facility, and certainly Sammy at the Hampton Inn. And then other members of our staff, Doug Boersma, Stephanie Dwyer, Brian Daniels, and Chris Sicaro, our video coordinator, are all involved in the process. And last but not least, I really want to thank the families of our coaching staff. On weekends here, it's all in. It's our wives, our kids, our families that we try to be transparent as we welcome these players to the Falcon football family. Certainly our own personal families are involved in that process as well. So again, I'd like to show highlights of our incoming recruits. As we watch the highlights, I'll make a few comments on them, kind of share with you how the recruiting process went with them, and then when we're completed, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Okay, so if we could roll the tape. I'm going to turn around here so I can watch it with you. Okay, first of all, Michael Allen out of East LA College was coached by Lynn Kane. Michael was a player a year ago, was committed to San Diego State. And then he ended up a class short and wasn't able to graduate. And Coach Warren Ruggiero, our offensive coordinator, anticipating that we were going to graduate 6 seniors, stayed in touch with him. Because he didn't play this year, he kind of fell off the radar for a lot of people. But we think we've got a special player here. Very dynamic, athletic. Really, I think has a chance to help us early. Very similar to Eugene Cooper, that didn't play his last year, fell off the radar, and really believe we stole one here. This was a guy a year ago we had a hard time getting in the MAC. He was being recruited at a very high level. Okay, Michael is already enrolled, taking classes, and he'll be here in the spring. J.J. Began played at Seton LaSalle High School in Pittsburgh, coached by Greg Perry. Love this guy. Had a lot of live evaluations in camp on him. We just think he's physical, he's tough. He's the classic Pittsburgh offensive lineman. I mean, he's going to be an inside player for us. We saw him a couple times in the summer. Every evaluation, we liked him better. He's one of those rare guys nowadays that he made a commitment to us very early in the process, stuck with it, and never wavered. A lot of big schools came in on him late, but he was 100% BG from the summer. Great parents, very supportive. Got the whole package with him. A physical offensive lineman, a great kid, great family. Very excited that he's going to be joining us this summer. Okay, Jacob Bennett. Jacob's out of Lebanon High School, coached by Stephen Lamb out of Lebanon, Ohio. Another early commit. Big, tall offensive tackle. Really believe he's a diamond in the rough. We love his size. We love his athleticism. We like to recruit tall, lean linemen, and then we put him in Coach Horrigan's hands to build him up. And we think this guy could end up being a 6'6", 6'7", 320-pound tackle before it's over. Again, classic left tackle, prototype body. Okay, next player, Coy Brown. Coy's a linebacker from Northwood High School in Indiana, coached by Scott Hoover. Had a great junior year as a tailback. We had him in camp this year and loved his athleticism, loved his ability to change direction. He's physical, he's tough. He is already enrolled. He graduated early from high school, and he is on campus now taking classes, and he'll be with us in the spring. Again, a very versatile athlete. You're going to watch him a little bit here as a tailback. And this was from his junior year. So I think has a chance to be an excellent linebacker, will be a versatile special teams player for us. And again, as Dwayne Woods and some of our linebackers get into their senior and junior year, very important that we recruit linebackers this year. Dalton Chapman out of Grove City High School in Ohio, coached by Chad Spickler. Again, just love this guy. Excellent student, tall, lean, physical athlete, great size potential. And again, just part of the process of making sure we always have depth at offensive line. Fits the mold of what we're looking for. Tall, lean, physical, I think has a chance again to become a 6'6", 300-pound offensive tackle for us. Columbus area in Ohio has been very good to us, and it was great to get another player out of there this year. Okay, Jaleel Crowley, you can tell by his highlight here, he has confidence. Coached by Gary Crowley out of Princeton High School. Princeton High School has been great to us. Two starters on our team this year, Dwayne Woods and Jordan Hopgood, are both out of Princeton. Jaleel was very, very heavily recruited, had some BCS offers early in the process, had offers by over half the MAC schools. And I think this is just where having a relationship with a coach, with a high school, two of their players are here that are having success, doing well in school, that they know that the things we promise we deliver on. And he was a guy that I think broke some of Dwayne Woods' high school records, and I know he's going to be after his college records now, so that'll be a fun competition in summer camp. Scott Davis. Scott's out of Godwin High School in Virginia. Little side story here, lived about 6 doors away from me when I lived in Richmond. My daughter learned how to ride a bike in his front driveway. It was the only flat place in the neighborhood. But he ended up going to Fork Union Military Academy. This is a dual threat tight end. He's big enough to be physical at the point of attack, athletic enough that he's a threat as a pass catcher. And we didn't necessarily feel that we had to sign a tight end this year. We just thought this guy was too good to pass up. So he is already enrolled. He's in class. He'll be here in the spring. Logan Dietz comes from a very historical high school program in Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh Central Catholic, home of Dan Marino, coached by Terry Totten, an outstanding coach in Pittsburgh. And again, he fits the mold of what we're looking for. He's tall, he's athletic, he moves extremely well. We had him as a live evaluation in camp. And again, just another big, tall, physical lineman that we think can become a prototype tackle for us. He was in our summer camp and liked him there and continued to recruit him, and he committed about 2 months ago. Okay, Anthony Farinelli from Downers Grove South High School. Coach John Bilsick coached him. He was his conference special teams player of the year. He's a 4.0 student. And most importantly for us, he had 46 touchbacks this year as a senior kicking off. We struggled kicking the ball off this year. We felt that was a need we had to address. And we're very excited to get this guy. If these are 2 kickoffs, that would have been good field goals. So, and again, not just a kicker, but a good football athlete. He was a wrestler. He ran the 800. He played wide receiver. And again, very excited about him. His father and his mother were both athletes in college. And just very excited. Not just a good kicker, a good athlete, good competitor. And I think he can help us early. Okay, Eric Hallman out of Cardinal Gibbons High School, coached by Mike Morrill. Cardinal Gibbons is one of the best private school teams down in South Florida in the Fort Lauderdale area. This was a guy that where it helped being patient. He was committed to Texas Tech very early in the process. At some point, he opened up his process, and because we were a little bit more patient this year, we were able to stay involved with a guy like this. And you know, he was a 4-year starter at a great program. Athletic, we think he can be an outside linebacker. He may grow into being a box linebacker for us, but I think has a chance to be a really good special teams player and also play early on special teams as an outside linebacker and possibly could grow into playing an inside position. Talked about the long snapper position. You know, Greg Hohenstein was in our camp. He was the number 4 ranked long snapper in the Midwest by Chris Rubio. Again, played at Wheaton Warrenville South, coached by Ron Mulchick. He was at our specialist camp. He had great times as a long snapper. He was by far the best long snapper in our camp. He became our #1 target back to last June. And he was the guy we wanted from the beginning. Like I said, with Corey Johnson going into his senior year, we wanted to have the next snapper here on campus. And very excited to get him. Comes from a great high school program, multiple state championships. Like I said, we'll go anywhere to get a good player. Okay, and this is David K. Cueva from Arizona Western Junior College, coached by Tom Mimic. And David comes from Hawaii. His first name is Chief in Hawaiian, so I don't try to pronounce his last name all the time. I just call him Chief. And strong, physical, excellent student. He was like a 3.8, 3.9 cum. We graduated 2 of our top 3 centers in Ben Boychek and Scott Lewis. So this was a position that we wanted to get an older guy. We wanted to get a junior college player. His team played for the national championship in junior college. And this was just a guy we thought was too good to pass up. He's physical, he's smart, he can run, and I think he has a chance to help us early. James Kanapke, coached by Matt Lindsay in Bishop Loras High School in Indiana, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Again, had a live evaluation early. He was our first choice as a quarterback. He committed last June, last July, stuck with it. He is the only quarterback, and my assistant coaches have backed me up on this research. In the history of the state of Indiana, he is the only starting quarterback to win 3 consecutive state championships. So he's the starter as a sophomore, junior, senior. His team every year won the state championship. Broke school records, broke conference records, has a very live arm, athletic. And again, we want to recruit a quarterback a year. And this was our first choice early in the process, and very excited that he committed early and again, stuck to his word, never wavered, even though other schools came in on him. Okay, Isaiah Lunsford, coached by Gerald Womack down at Schroeder High School in Cincinnati. Also helped us at P.J. Pope, great running back at Bowling Green, as an assistant coach down here. He was at our traveling camp at Lakota West last year in Cincinnati. Fell in love with his work ethic, his size, his athleticism. We really wanted to get 2 big physical defensive tackles as we're starting to get older at that position. It's one of the few positions on defense that we're kind of going to be junior and senior heavy. And again, I think he's going to be a very good player, good work ethic, great size potential. And when you have a BG guy in the school that's with him every day and speaks of his work ethic, really felt good about him. Mike Mins. Mike's a guy that kind of appeared late for us. This is 2 years in a row that we've gotten a player out of Dwyer High School. Dwyer is one of the best programs down in Palm Beach County. Jack Daniels is the head coach. Last year we recruited Daryl Hunter out of there. And this is a guy, again, we love his size. He's ready-made. He's 300 pounds today. He is strong. At times on film, he is unblockable. He plays with great leverage, can change direction, a very compact. Reminded me a lot of Chris Jones on film. And again, that's a high standard to live up to, but I think this guy's going to do it. He's a guy we think could play early. Okay, Josh Pettis played at Southwestern High School up in Detroit, coached by Michael Dennis, and then College of DuPage. And this was a safety we thought was too good to pass up. Even though we're young at the position, we think this is a guy that could come in and have an early impact. What we love about Josh is he can tackle. If you watch his film, he gets guys on the ground. He's got excellent ball skills. This is a guy that turned down a handful of BCS offers in part because he wanted to play close to his home in Detroit. Had him up for a visit, fell in love with the place. His mom can watch him play, his family can watch him play, and we think we got a steal on this one. We think we got a big-time player that's going to help us early. James Sanford, coached by Bob DeLong down at Xenia High School, down in the Dayton area. Again, this was probably another example of a player maybe a year ago we didn't recruit. Early in the process, he had a Big Ten offer, he had 2 Big East offers. As the process played out, he became, it was a battle with another MAC school, and it was a tough battle, but we were excited to win it. We think, again, a big-time player, hoop player, 3-sport guy, liked him on film. He was at one of our traveling one-day camps, and just think he's a big-time player out of Ohio. Very lucky to get him. Again, I think he's a guy that has a chance to help us early. Could play a high safety for us, physical enough to play the rover position for us. And you watch him on film here, he also has very good ball skills. Ben Stewart, always looking for people who come from great stock, obviously. Ben's very intelligent. His mother, Barb, is a Bowling Green graduate, so that helped in the process. He is a 6'7", 300-pound offensive tackle. Had offers by over half the MAC schools. Played for Coach Al Slammer at Holt High School. Physical, athletic, that same type of tackle body that we want to recruit. And just love how physical, how tough he is. And another guy, great family, committed early, kept his commitment, never wavered, even though other schools kept trying to recruit him and kept trying to get him to visit. He held true to Bowling Green till the end. And then Will Watson, again, another example of a player maybe a year ago that we had to fill needs. We were patient. He was a very early commit to Iowa State. He opened up his recruiting process. His team Jefferson, which is one of the best programs in the Tampa area, coached by Jeremy Earl at Thomas Jefferson. They were state champs as a junior. This play here was the opening play of the senior season, opening kickoff. So he certainly got our attention with that play. We want to get bigger corners. So this is a guy that has some height, he has some length, he has some range. Again, good ball skills. And again, at corner, the standard was high because we have a lot of good young corners in the program. So we just didn't want to take any corner. We wanted to take a guy that we thought could come in early, compete, and possibly play early. And I think Will can do a lot of different things for us. I love this clip on him. You see him flip his hips 2 or 3 times. And again, this isn't a 5'8" guy doing this. He has some length and some height. Also love that he'll come up and hit you. Finally, James White, out of Crockett, up in Southfield, Michigan, coached by Roderick Oden. He was a guy that was at one of our one-day camps. He was at our 7-on-7 passing camp. Very versatile athlete. A lot of people recruited him as a safety. We liked him as a wide receiver. He's tall, he has range, again, good ball skills, and just one of those guys that's a very versatile football player. So obviously with what we graduated at receiver, this position was a priority. He was a guy that committed to us early and stuck by his commitment. And again, always good when that fax comes through the fax machine on signing date. So again, that's our signing class for this year. And again, I think if you throw Schmeidebusch, Stokes, and Givens on that list, you know, it's, like I said, a good class gets even better. So if you have any questions about the class, I'd be happy to answer them.
Dave, you've talked about some of these kids having a chance to have an impact right away. Are there particular kids that you think will have an impact starting next season?
Well, we tell every player in recruiting that we want them to come in with the mindset they're going to play. And by the same token, you know, there's positions that maybe the depth is thinner that guys have a chance earlier. I certainly think, you know, Josh Pettis and James Sanford at safety. We play a 3-safety defense in our nickel packages and our dime packages. Sometimes we play 4 and 5 safeties. You know, guys like Boo Boo Gates who played early, Brian Sutton who played early, guys that can get on special teams. I'd be very surprised if Pettis and Sanford are not early contributors for us. Will Watson as a corner. I think he has all the athleticism, the size, he can cover people. You know, I think the positions that you know, the strength requirements are greater, sometimes are a little slower to develop. So I think, you know, with all the offensive linemen we took, you know, certainly there's a chance that 1 or 2 of them could get in the 2 deep and play. That's a position we'd like to redshirt people. But you never want to prejudge it. You know, last year at this point, I certainly didn't think a freshman tailback would come in and make a contribution, and Anton Samuel ends up being the Rookie of the Year in the MAC. And, you know, if he stayed healthy, would have rushed for 1,000 yards.
Are there particular players that you thought, and I think you've also kind of addressed this, guys who are special gets for this group?
Well, like I said, this process played out a lot differently than the last 2 years. I think as a staff, we were very concerned with the lack of players in the program, just from a number standpoint, that, you know, we had to make sure that we recruited players and had people in positions. I think we're now at a point in the program that, you know, we have players, we've retained them, we haven't lost them, and we could be more selective and fight more battles. And so whether it's a player like Will Watson at one point who was committed to Iowa State, a player like Josh Pettis who had multiple BCS offers, a player like James Sanford that had multiple BCS offers, I think in the past we would have viewed those kids as maybe such long shots and we couldn't afford to miss at the position, that this year those are battles we fought and in some cases won them. You know, in some cases, you know, we didn't win every battle we fought, but we ended up exactly where we wanted to end up. And certainly the kicking position is another one that, you know, we feel very good with where we are at punter with Brian Schmeidebusch, feel very solid about our long snapping with Corey and Greg coming in. And, you know, we struggled last year kicking the football. So that was a position that we need to add competition. You know, we've got Tyler Tate coming back, you know, Steven Stein, I think had a solid year kicking extra points and short field goals. But we need a kicker to step up and kick the ball through the end zone on kickoffs. And we need to be able to attempt occasionally a 45-yard field goal. And I think between Tyler and the program, if he gets healthy, and sign in Anthony, that we feel that will immediately address that problem. At the very least, we have competition at a critical position.
So compete towards just strictly kickoffs, or could he compete as well for place?
I'd love it if he or Tyler win the kickoff job. One of those two have to win it. And when I say win it, I don't mean kick the ball to the 15-yard line. I mean win it by kicking the ball inside the 5, touchbacks. I mean, this guy had 46 touchbacks as a senior. Okay, we haven't, I don't think, had 4 touchbacks in the last 2 years. So it's a problem. You know, one of the things, it's hard to play good defense when teams are constantly getting the ball at the 40-yard line. And again, it's a problem that just wasn't going to go away. And again, between Tyler and Simon Anthony, that problem needs to get fixed. So we expect one of those two to win the job and win it being successful. And his track record last year and the evaluations that we got on him from people like Chris Saylor, who work with kickers for a living, was very positive feedback. So, you know, one of those two need to win the job, and they need to do a great job for us. And certainly Adam Shire, our special teams coordinator, his evaluation is he's going to come in and be a great one, and I completely trust Adam. The bullet's on you, Coach.
Coach, looking more at where you've recruited players from, does it ever become a concern if there might be one area that's not represented on your recruiting list?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly talk as a staff. I think, you know, we've held to form that we're within that 4-hour radius. That hasn't changed. You know, last year I was very concerned that we didn't get players out of the Dayton-Cincinnati area. And this year we got 4 players from that area. You know, James Sanford, Jacob Bennett, Jaleel Crowley, and Isaiah Lunsford. You know, the past few years we've gotten players out of Cleveland, and this year we didn't get anybody out of Northeast Ohio. So certainly need to evaluate what we're doing. You know, that's an area that we want to do a great job in, but just you can't explain it. Some years, you know, last year Cincinnati we didn't get anybody, and this year there's 4 players right down the I-75 corridor that we liked early and did a great job recruiting them. And you know, we've consistently gotten players out of Columbus, but maybe next year we don't get Columbus and Cleveland becomes a big year. But again, I think the layout of where we're getting players has been very consistent. You know, if you take that 4-hour radius, I think over the last 3 years, probably 75–80% of our players. And at the end of the day, John, I mean, you need to do a great job in your backyard, but we consider, you know, Detroit is closer than Cleveland for us. And if, you know, if we can get a great player out of Detroit that can help us win, you know, we have a good alumni base up there, and in a lot of ways we consider that an in-state area as well.
Coach, did a relationship that you had with Scott Davis, did that factor in his decision to come here, do you think?
Not really. To be honest with you, I didn't know him that well. You know, they knew of me because I lived in the neighborhood, and I certainly knew of him. But you know, it wasn't like there was a long-term, you know, relationship there. But when they came up, you know, I realized they lived right up the street, and you know, certainly the people from his neighborhood who knew us and they asked people about us made them feel much more comfortable sending their son up to Bowling Green. I think anytime you have a track record with people that you don't feel like you're sending them to a complete stranger, it always makes the parents more comfortable with the decision.
Coach, last year you guys got, going back to the geography question, you guys got a lot of players from Florida, and then this year the Tide from 02nd represented state among recruits. How have you been able to so well sell the program to kids who may not be very familiar with Bowling Green? I
think they are familiar with Bowling Green. I think being on national television as often as we are, that exposure when you go down there, they've seen us on TV. Certainly Bowling Green has a history of recruiting well in Florida going back to Omar Jacobs. But you know, Coach Nick Monroe and Mike Elko recruit Florida for us. Last year Nick did a great job of pulling a bunch of guys out of South Florida, and a lot of those players know each other from the camps. So this year when we went down there, again, the class wasn't as big. To me, we filled a lot of our needs locally, so we didn't have to take as many players from Florida. But certainly at the end, when you go out and get Mike Mins, the fact that you recruited Daryl Hunter the year before, Daryl came up here as a true freshman, started, loves Bowling Green, that makes it a very easy sell. You know, I mean, those guys know each other, they talk, and then on the weekends they come up, and you know, they know that you know, Mike and his family know that Daryl's going to tell them the truth. That, you know, what we sell in recruiting, we deliver through the process of being a student athlete here, and I think that credibility is really important.
And then in regards to the quarterback, does having Trent transfer have anything to do with, you know, or let me rephrase, does it have more so importance to develop Kanapke this year with guys like Johnson and Stokes behind Matt Shills where you can afford to bide your time with him?
Well, I think quarterback is always a position that, you know, transfers are going to happen. And I think with Trent, you know, it was going to be a one-year window, and he wanted more than that. And I think now we've got a little bit of a better sell. We still only have 3 quarterbacks on scholarship. And, you know, certainly it's going to be a competitive position. And I talk all the time that the better teams in the league, you know, have been able to play and win with a second quarterback, you know, whether it's Northern Illinois in the bowl game or other team, you know, Miami a year ago. You need to have more than one, especially in this conference. So, you know, certainly Matt Shills is going into his junior year, but we're very excited about Matt Johnson and his development. And we think James Kanapke has an opportunity to be a great quarterback as well. So you can't have enough good ones at that position. And really, we're light. I think most Division I programs, you know, can have upwards of 5, 6 quarterbacks on scholarship, and right now we only have 3. So, you know, there will be repetitions and a chance to compete.
With recruiting a junior college center, you're hopefully that he can come in and play right away, and that way you can still use Chip at guard?
We're going to let him come in and compete. And that was a position 2 years ago. We had a ton of injuries, and the results spoke for themselves. Last year, we really were only 6 deep, and we were hanging on by a thread. And I just think we've talked as a staff that we want to make sure that we always have at least 8 or 9 playable players. And you want competition at the position. And, you know, we graduated Ben, we graduated Scott. We weren't just going to take an average player, but you have a guy that's an All-American, played for a national championship. He's a 3.8 student, and he can run and move, and he's as physical as he is. You know, I just have a hard time not seeing him getting in the mix somewhere. So he was one of those players that we didn't necessarily go into it saying you have to get a junior college center, but we were looking at a receiver at Arizona Western, and in the process of looking at the receiver, we saw him, watched his film, and just said, this guy is too good not to take. And it was one of those crazy recruiting stories that, you know, he had missed a flight to another school, so we quickly got him up, and he fell in love with the place. And, you know, I just think that's a compliment to Bowling Green that, you know, we could attract players and students from all over the country and all over the world. That here's a guy from Hawaii, the Big Island, and absolutely fell in love with Bowling Green. He's here now, and we're very excited about him.
Anything else for Coach? All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Please stay down.
With the college page, that would be another junior college.
Are those guys calling me, the radio people?